It's 11 p.m. on Tuesday. The dishes are done. The counter's wiped. The throw pillow is back in the corner of the couch, exactly where it belongs. And you stand there in the quiet of your own kitchen, not tired, not restless, just steady, like something in you unclenched. Nobody asked you to do this. Nobody is coming over. You did it because something in you cannot settle until the surfaces are clear. And here's what's strange. You've done this your whole life, and you've never once stopped to ask why. Why some people literally cannot relax in a messy space. That's what this video is about. Some people keep a clean home because they love the aesthetic. Some do it because it helps them focus and get things done. And some, and this is what we're really getting into today, do it because something much deeper is going on. Something their nervous system has been trying to say for years. There's a name for what's happening. There's a reason it started. And there's something that nobody who grew up in this pattern was ever told about it. If you've ever felt genuinely calmer after cleaning a room, if you've noticed that when the house is in order, the mind is too, and wondered whether that's coincidence or something deeper, stay until the end, because the last 2 minutes don't just explain the behavior, they change what it means. In the 1990s, researchers studying environmental psychology began to track something they called visual noise, the measurable cognitive load created by clutter. It wasn't just an aesthetic complaint. A pile of unopened mail on the counter, a chair draped in yesterday's clothes, a kitchen table covered in stuff that doesn't have a place yet. Each one is a small, unresolved signal firing in your brain. This isn't handled. This isn't handled. This isn't handled. Disorganized environments, researchers found, activate the brain's threat detection system, the same network that lights up when you're startled or feel someone standing too close. Your nervous system does not distinguish between a stack of junk mail and a genuine danger. Both register as unresolved. Both quietly drain the same finite reservoir of mental energy. In 2010, researchers Darby Saxby and Rena Rapetti at UCLA tracked cortisol levels across 30 dual-income couples over multiple days. They found that women who described their homes as cluttered showed persistently elevated cortisol throughout the day, not spiked in response to a single stressor, but elevated as a steady baseline. Like a low hum of alarm that never quite stops. The research is real, though the sample was relatively small, and the field is still young. But what those numbers captured matches what clinicians working with anxiety have observed for decades. The clean house, in this light, isn't a preference. It's a regulation strategy. It's the nervous system voting with a mop. Here's where it gets personal. Picture a 9-year-old. School was hard. Something happened at home. Maybe it's loud. Maybe it's quiet in a scary way. But their bedroom, neat. Backpack by the door. Pencils lined up. Stuffed animals arranged exactly so. Not because someone told them to, because in here, they could breathe. In here, they were in charge of something. Here is what happens, slowly, in a childhood where things feel unpredictable, where the mood in the house shifts without warning, where love is conditional, or money is unstable, or someone drinks, or someone simply isn't there enough. The child's brain, being a survival machine, begins to look for something it can manage. The environment becomes the proxy. I cannot control what happens at the dinner table, but I can control whether my desk is straight. And not always does this begin with you. Maybe you watched your mother tense up before guests arrived. Maybe your father rearranged things in the garage when something else felt out of his hands. Maybe tidiness was just the weather in your house, something in the air, inherited without a single conversation about it. You didn't decide to take on this pattern, you just watched. And the watching was enough. That child grew up, but the nervous system remembered. The behavior that once kept a child calm becomes, over time, a baseline need. not a preference, a need. Because the brain doesn't distinguish well between I clean because I like order and I clean because disorder activates a threat response installed decades ago. Both feel the same from the inside. The cluttered room doesn't make you anxious. The cluttered room reminds you of every moment you had no control over anything at all. And here is where we have to be honest about something. Because the instinct when we talk about coping mechanisms is to pathologize them, to say, this is a wound, this is what it cost you, now let's fix it. But that framing misses something important. What looks like rigidity is actually intelligence. Brilliant, adaptive, context-specific intelligence, built under impossible conditions. The child who learned to create order was doing the most sophisticated thing a brain can do, finding a tool that worked when nothing else did. And it did work. That's the thing. It genuinely reduced anxiety. It genuinely created a sense of agency in a situation where agency was in short supply. People who grew up learning to regulate through order often develop something genuinely rare, an extraordinary capacity to create calm. In environments that are chaotic for everyone else, they can walk into a room, assess it, and begin returning it to something manageable. They notice disorder early, before it compounds. They have, built into their bones, a deep understanding of the relationship between outer structure and inner state. That's not damage. That's competence born in difficult conditions. The wound and the gift arrived in the same package. The loss, the part that deserves to be named, is the cost. When outer order becomes your operating system, disorder, even temporary, even minor, can feel catastrophic. A partner who leaves cups on the counter, a workday that runs long, a week where you just couldn't keep up. The mess doesn't just feel messy, it feels like evidence. Evidence that things are slipping, that you're losing the one thing you most need to hold. That's not a character flaw. That's a nervous system doing its job, the job it was trained for. There's a phrase that has stayed with many people who encountered it. Outer order, inner calm. It sounds almost too simple. But what it quietly acknowledges is that the mind and the environment are not separate systems. They're in constant conversation. A clean room is a kept promise. To yourself, I will make this safe. I will make this okay. I will make at least this one corner of the world reflect the order I need to function. That's not neurosis. That's an act of self-respect, so habitual it became invisible. Here is the quiet thing at the center of all of this. That gesture hand across the counter at 11 p.m. means something different now, doesn't it? It was never about the dishes. For some people, it's about safety. For some, it's about control, the one thing that always felt within reach. For some, it's simply an act of self-respect so deep it became instinct. But in every case, it was never an accident. It was never just a quirk. It was always you, taking care of yourself, in the only language you knew at the time. You built that, with your own hands, every single day, without anyone showing you how. That's worth knowing. If this is the first time someone put words to something you've felt your whole life, tell me in the comments. And if you want to keep going deeper, subscribe. That's exactly the kind of thing we talk about here.